Dean Martin was moving effortlessly through That's Amore when he saw it. A glint. Cold metal reflecting the stage lights. It wasn't pointed at him, not yet. It was sitting casually on a linen-covered table in the front row, resting beside a glass of bourbon. And the hand beside it belonged to a man whose name most people in Las Vegas spoke only in whispers. A man whose presence could freeze a room faster than a gunshot. Vincent Antonelli, one of the most feared mob enforcers in Nevada. Dean's voice never wavered, but his eyes narrowed just slightly, the only sign he'd noticed the weapon. The band kept swinging. The crowd kept smiling. But underneath the music, something dark and electric hummed through the Copa room. Tonight was the third straight night Antonelli had come looking for Dean. 3 times Dean had refused to meet him. This wasn't defiance. This was Dean's way of saying, "I don't get summoned." But tonight, Antonelli wasn't waiting politely backstage. Tonight, he bought out the first 3 rows, 20 men in dark suits sitting shoulder to shoulder, staring at Dean without blinking. And now, as Dean sang, Antonelli raised 2 thick fingers to his throat and drew a slow, deliberate line across it. The room didn't see it, but Dean did. For a moment, time froze between the notes. Then Dean stopped singing. The band kept playing for a few awkward bars until they noticed the look on Dean's face and slowly faded out. Silence slid across the room like a curtain. Dean Martin stood alone, microphone in hand, staring directly at Vincent Antonelli. What he did next was so insane, so reckless, so perfectly Martin that even the mob later admitted they respected him for it. He stepped to the very edge of the stage, leaned down, and held out the microphone. "You want to sing?" Dean said. "Go ahead." 2,800 people forgot how to breathe. To understand this night, you have to understand Las Vegas in 1965. It wasn't a playground for families. It wasn't corporate. It was a city run by the mob, cleanly, efficiently, ruthlessly. Casinos, hotels, entertainment, everything flowed through crime families. Not just behind the scenes, openly, confidently. The Sands was no exception. Frank Sinatra had a famously tangled relationship with them. The Rat Pack, Frank, Dean, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, Joey Bishop, all understood the unwritten rules. You entertain, you behave, and you never cross the wrong men. Dean Martin wasn't naive. He'd grown up in Steubenville, Ohio, a town where backroom gambling and mob associates were just part of the scenery. His father cut hair in a barber shop that doubled as a gambling front. Dean had learned early how to read dangerous men. But he also learned something else. If you show fear, you're finished. Dean never showed fear. Not on stage, not in life, not even when the most dangerous man in Nevada demanded 3 private meetings with him. Then it all started 3 days earlier. Dean was in his dressing room, relaxing before his show, when his assistant Jackie Romano opened the door to find a sharp-dressed man waiting. "Mr. Martin," the man said, "Mr. Antonelli would like a private meeting after your performance tonight." Dean didn't even look up from his magazine. "Tell Mr. Antonelli I'm tired after the show. Maybe another time." The messenger's eyes hardened. "Mr. Antonelli insists." Dean finally looked up and walked over to him. "Tell Mr. Antonelli," he said quietly, "that Dean Martin doesn't take meetings with men who send messengers. If he wants to speak with me, he can come down here himself, and ask nicely." The messenger stared at him for a long, cold moment, then nodded. "I'll deliver your message." When the door shut, Jackie nearly collapsed. "Dean, do you even know who that was? That's Vincent Antonelli's top guy." Dean shrugged, flipping his magazine back open. "I don't work for the mob, Jackie. I work for the Sands. Last I checked, I'm the one selling out this place, not Antonelli." But word spread quickly. Dean Martin had refused Vincent Antonelli. By the next night, the messenger returned again. "Mr. Antonelli is downstairs waiting. He expects to speak with you now." Dean unfastened his bow tie. "Tell him I already left." "But you're standing right here." Dean smiled. "Am I? Could have sworn I walked out 10 minutes ago." The messenger's jaw tightened. "You don't seem to understand." "No, pal," Dean cut in. "I understand perfectly. Now go deliver my message. Again." Jackie stared at him. "Dean, he's going to kill you." Dean waved it off. "I've dealt with tough guys my whole life. They only own you if you run." By June 18th, the Sands was buzzing. Antonelli was furious. Security whispered warnings. Pit bosses dropped hints. Dean's manager practically begged him to take the meeting. But Dean wouldn't back down. "If I start running now," he told Frank Sinatra over the phone, "I'll be running forever." That night, Dean walked onto the stage at 9 p.m. sharp. The room was full, 2,800 people, but the only eyes that mattered were in the first 3 rows. Vincent Antonelli sat dead center, broad-shouldered, stone-faced, a man whose reputation for violence made even mobsters uneasy. 20 of his men flanked him, arms folded, watching Dean like predators studying prey. Dean didn't flinch. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen," he said cheerfully. "You all look beautiful tonight, even the fellas who seem a little tense." A ripple of nervous laughter. Dean glided through 8 at a kick in the head, never breaking stride, but those who knew him sensed something different. Beneath his trademark looseness, there was focus, alertness, calculation. Halfway through the second song, Antonelli reached into his jacket. The entire band stiffened. Dean's voice faltered for just a heartbeat, but Antonelli pulled out a cigarette, lit it, staring at Dean through the rising smoke. Then he made the gesture, a slow, deliberate finger across the throat. The message was unmistakable. Dean stopped singing. The band trailed off. 2,000 people froze. And then Dean Martin smiled. "Well, folks," he said lightly, "looks like we've got ourselves a critic in the front row." Dean walked toward him, slow, controlled, fearless. He knelt on the edge of the stage, holding the microphone out like an offering. "You keep making those gestures at me," Dean said softly, "so why don't you come up here and sing? Go on, take the mic." Antonelli stared at him. This was the moment where a man like Antonelli decided whether to respect you or kill you. The room felt like it was holding its breath underwater. Then Antonelli laughed. A cold, dangerous laugh, but a laugh nonetheless. "You got balls, Martin," he said. "I'll give you that." Dean grinned. "So that's a yes? Because the acoustics up here are terrific." Antonelli shook his head. "Nah, you keep singing. That's what you do best." Dean stood, tapped the mic, and turned back to the audience. "Well, folks, looks like I'm doing the show myself tonight after all." The room exhaled. For the next hour, Dean performed flawlessly, joking, singing, moving with effortless grace. Antonelli and his men stayed the entire time. At the end, the feared mobster even stood and applauded. After the show, Antonelli knocked on Dean's dressing room door. This time he was alone. Dean offered him a drink. Antonelli accepted. "You know why I wanted to meet with you?" Antonelli asked. "Heard it was about a dancer," Dean replied. Antonelli nodded. "My girl wanted to leave Vegas. Thought maybe you put the idea in her head." "I've never even met her," Dean said. "I know," Antonelli replied. "Turns out it was another guy. I handled it." Dean didn't ask what handled meant. Antonelli continued. "But you made me look bad in front of my people. 3 times my guy came to you, and 3 times you blew him off." "So you came to my show to scare me?" Antonelli asked. Antonelli smirked. "Something like that. But you didn't scare." Dean shrugged. "I don't scare easy." Antonelli finished his drink and set it down with a quiet clink. "I respect that," he said. "We're good, Dean." He extended his hand. Dean shook it. As Antonelli opened the door, he paused. "But next time I sent someone," Antonelli said, "don't make them come 3 times." "Deal," Dean replied. As by morning, the story was everywhere. Dean Martin didn't just survive an encounter with one of the deadliest men in Vegas. He earned his respect. The entertainment world buzzed with the tale. The mob itself whispered about it. It changed something fundamental in Las Vegas. Entertainers were no longer just hired help. Dean had shown that courage, real courage, could stand toe-to-toe with power.
Frank Sinatra called him the next day. "Dean, are you out of your mind? He could have killed you." "He didn't," Dean replied. "Why didn't you just meet with him when he asked?" Dean paused. "Because if I had run once, I'd have been running forever." Frank was silent, then laughed. "You're either the bravest man alive or the dumbest." "Maybe both," Dean said. The story became legend. Some said Dean pulled out his own gun. Others said Antonelli stormed the stage. None of it was true. The truth was better. Dean Martin stood in front of a Mafia enforcer with nothing but his voice, his smile, and his courage. And the mob respected him for it. Antonelli was killed years later in a mob hit, a power struggle Dean never asked about. When Dean heard the news, he simply said, "Vincent was a tough guy, but he was fair." In interviews, Dean always downplayed the incident. "I just didn't want anyone ruining my show," he'd say. But the 2,800 people who were there knew the truth. Dean Martin didn't just act cool. He was cool, unshakable, unflappable, fearless in a way most men only pretend to be. And on June 18, 1965, he proved it.